Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do an early review of Death Must Die, shall we? So it's an early review because the game's in early access and I haven't been playing it for dozens of hours, but I have put in some time with this game and I think I can offer my opinions, so I'm going to give the game a letter grade based on how I evaluate this game. And then in the second portion of the review, what I'm going to do here is talk about whether or not you should buy and play Death Must Die. So first of all, what kind of a game is Death Must Die? Well, it is a survivor bullet heaven type game. Think Vampire Survivors, think Halls of Torment, and then kind of blend that with Hades in the choose 3 roguelite meta progression survivor type game, and you're in that wheelhouse. And the Steam page says, descend into Nether in search of Death himself. Choose from God-given powers to slay his hordes of minions, unlock new heroes, collect powerful items, and create game-breaking synergies in this roguelite hack-and-slash survivors game. And the user-defined tags are action roguelike, bullet hell, RPG. All of those are right. What I have experienced, and what I would say is, if you take something like Halls of Torment with that old school Diablo aesthetic, and then you take the fact that you can get a full paper doll of equipment, and then blend in all of the meta progression kind of that you're used to, skill trees, unlocking different heroes, a central hub where you restart in these survivor roguelites, but you also combine the kind of gods and the different powers that they can give you and the banter back and forth between the different gods that are voice acted most of the time, almost exactly like it is in Hades, then you get Death Must Die. And honestly, all of these combinations work together beautifully to create what is, in my mind, one of the best survivor games out there right now, because I love the choices in design and the execution for Death Must Die so far. So the first thing I want to talk about with Death Must Die is the game fun? Like, okay, great, it combines all of these things together, but is it actually fun to play? And yes, I think this is a blast. I think the different powers that you get are a lot of fun, and you do get a feeling like there are game-breaking synergies, like you get huge spikes of power where you're just devastating, and maybe at first you get crushed, but you start getting a little bit of incremental progress, some gear, some new powers, you understand things more, you hit a shrine, and you're off to the races. So I think that this is an incredibly fun game in this space, even though this is a very crowded space with lots of really good games. I really think it stands toe-to-toe with the best in this genre. So what about the controls? How does Death Must Die control? I've been playing with the controller and it works great. I'm sure you can do mouse and keyboard. This is a game where, just like Vampire Survivors, you don't need to really even do anything but move. However, they've iterated that on a bit where it's like you can aim and attack whenever you want, which is fantastic to, prioritize elites or whatever. But you can also toggle auto attack on and off. And you have a dash, which again, a la Hades, is very important because enemies create threatened areas that are marked by red, and you need to get out of there very quickly to avoid taking damage. So you have to be a little bit more nimble and dodgy than some of these games where you don't have a dash at all. So you kind of have more, it's more active in that way, but it's not detrimental that I have found. So I think the controls are very good for the game. Now, what about a subset of controls that I always like to talk about, which is the systems and the UI. So, how do all of the different systems in this game work? Does it do them well? And how does the UI help you navigate the game and those systems? So the systems in Death Must Die are buying and selling, skilling, combat, meta progression, skill tree, and just the business of a roguelite where you're trying to make as much progress as you can. You're choosing different options to power yourself up, to create the best build that you can, get some good stuff die, go back to the base, get stronger, try again. In my opinion, all of these systems work exactly as you would expect them to and are executed beautifully. I have had no problems understanding how to do anything. Everything makes perfect sense. Again, Death Must Die isn't the most original in that sense because it's really just taking existing systems, but it does them so well and blends them so seamlessly that I give it full marks for the systems. I have no complaints. And as far as the UI goes, I think it's very good. I think there's lots of explanation of exactly what you're getting. You can compare items. You have transparency for the different features of these items and your skills, so you can kind of get a readout of what's doing what. And I haven't had any issues at all with the UI, so I like it just fine. Now, what about the story in Death Must Die? So, in Survivor games, bullet heaven games, the story isn't necessarily ultra important. It's not usually why you play these, but this game has a kind of interesting story in the sense that it's deadly serious, but it's also like the character interaction is hilariously modern. They have like emojis when they talk to each other and stuff, and it's kind of silly. So it's like tongue-in-cheek, doesn't take itself too seriously, and then there's just this amalgam, and then the business of the deaths, or not the deaths rather, but the gods talking to each other and kind of like reacting to the choices that you're making, like, oh, I see you took this god's power, and then they have an opinion about that god or whatever, and they evaluate you, and it's kind of amusing. So the story is fine. It's not, going to blow your mind, but it's not supposed to in a game like this. But it is present, so it's kind of cool, and you unlock codexes and books and stuff to get more background on what's going on. So what about the graphics in Death Must Die? How are the visuals? So this isn't like the best part of the game. It does look good in the Dead Cells pixelated, kind of appearance of an older game, but the hand drawing for, the gods, some of them are good, some of them aren't as good, but it's fine. It's not like unbelievable art direction like Hades, where you have this AAA title that's blowing you away, but it's totally serviceable, and there's some fun stuff that they do, and there's some really good pictures and illustrations in the game as well. So for my money, the visuals are, not the best around, but they're good, and it's fun. What about the audio in the game? How is the music, the sound effects, the voice acting? How are all these elements working? So for me, music is good. The sound effects are hilarious. There's this one sound effect when you defeat these night enemies that sounds like you're opening an aluminum can for some reason, and I think it's funny. The voice acting for the gods is also pretty good too. It's not always there, but when it is, it's a nice touch. So given all of the things that I've just talked about, how do all of these elements and aspects come together in the sense of style? Does Death Must Die feel like, okay, it's just another Survivors game that's iterating minimally and blending in things that already work and kind of slapping on an aesthetic and just calling it a day, and it feels soulless, workable and fine, but nothing special or unique? Or does it feel as if there is some artistry here? The game has a sense of soul and a pure identity. For me, Death Must Die actually does have a good bit of style. It's impossible to overlook the parallels between and the inspiration and ancestry from Hades and, Diablo, but at the same time, I don't mind that. Like, I like that kind of stuff. I like those games. So, okay, fine, you're inspired by some fantastic games, and yet it does have its own sense of uniqueness that it adds. But really, the thing for me with the style is that it all comes together in this package where everything works great. It's super fun, and it gets deeper and deeper and more involved and unique as you play. Like, once I started to see what was actually happening after a few deaths and things got unlocked, the style really comes into the foreground with all of the cool choices and systems that they have in this game, and you're like, oh my goodness, there's loot. There's buying and selling, there's different characters, there's meta progression, there's skill trees, there's achievements to work at, there's just on and on and on, and the amount of powers that you can get and stack is, kind of absurd, and you can get these totally, unfair feeling builds, so I think the style is great. So with all that being said, what is my grade for Death Must Die? What letter grade would I give it? Well, as always in my reviews, before I reveal my grade, I like to provide a baseline of the Metacritic scores and the Steam reviews just to kind of work from. And there is nothing on Steam. This is a small, early access game. I'm sorry, there's nothing on Metacritic. So there's no Metacritic reviews, even early access reviews. But on Steam, there are 13,600 plus reviews that are very positive as of the recording of this video. This video is coming out in the end of April 2024, and the game itself came out November 14th, 2023, according to the Steam page. Remember, it is in early access, and I am right there with the reviews. Actually, I'm honestly a little bit higher. I'm fine giving Death Must Die an A- because I think it's just unbelievably fun, and everything in it works beautifully. I think that I want to play the game more. I'm excited to see what happens as I get even more content and more characters, and I am having a blast with this game. My only knock on it would be that it's overwhelmingly derivative, not necessarily in a bad way, like it's just good stuff from other games, but it's not like this kind of groundbreaking, once in a lifetime or once in a generation type title because of the inspiration that it draws from existing titles. But I don't think that should hold you back at all from playing. I'm giving it an A-, which is a very high score for me, and it's extremely affordable. So like, I think that this is definitely a game that I love that I acquired it, and I'm excited to play more. My review actually might change as I play more of it. Like, it could very well, go up or down depending on what happens as I get further into it. But for now, I'm comfortable giving it an A-, and I'd love to know what you guys think of Death Must Die. Like, where would you rate this game? How would you evaluate it? What do you think of my review? Is it fair, unfair, too high, too low? Please let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about this game. And also, I will be putting links to my Let's Play. If I ever do a beginner's guide, I'll put those links down there in the description below as well, so you can see some more gameplay of this. But now let's talk about, should you buy and play Death Must Die? So I'm going to compare it to other games and genres so that you can say, okay, well, I like these types of games or this genre, so maybe it's for me. If you like ARPGs, if you like bullet heaven survivors types games, then 100% this is for you. It is, like I have said many times, you take Vampire Survivors, you take Halls of Torment, you take any of these, more contemporary survivors games that have really, really iterated and cleaned up and polished the formula, like Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, or the Pathfinder Survivor, Soulstone Survivors, like all of these games that are in this space, it is in that wheelhouse. But then you can't deny the Hades influence. And if you're even into Hades but haven't tried one of these more survivors types games, I would give it a look. And once I've established kind of like what games and genres it is similar to, let's also talk about the difficulty of Death Must Die, because sometimes difficulty level can be a factor that makes or breaks games for people. So this is not an overwhelmingly difficult game, but it is inherently challenging, as all roguelites are, where you're going to start out not being very good, you don't have access to great powers, you don't have good stuff yet, and you kind of have to build up to get stronger, more characters, more idea of your playstyle and what you want to do, understanding the powers, the gods, what things combo and stuff. So you're going to die, but that's part of the game. And it's really not challenging. You can just have fun and play. Now, that being said, it's probably challenging to like defeat bosses early, but if you put in the time and grind up to make your account powerful, I think you'll be fine in this game. Now, if it ends up being, as I get further into the game, that it gets really, really difficult, maybe I would change that, but I don't think this is an overwhelmingly hard game because death is a part of the process in a roguelite. So what about the value of Death Must Die? Death Must Die, it's currently on sale on Steam. It's early access, and I believe this game is like not even on sale. I think it's $7. I bought it in a bundle. It is a, incredible value, outrageous value. You're going to play this game a ton if you enjoy it, and for $7, I think it just absolutely obliterates value. And replayability is symptomatic with that because it's a roguelite, so you're incentivized. It's just part of the structure that you're going to replay it. Each run will be different. You can do different loadouts, different gear, different characters, and it is intensely replayable, so it is high value, high replayability, which is why overall, when I add everything up, 100% I give everyone full recommendation to play Death Must Die. Unless you just hate survivors games, if that's a genre that's just not for you, these kind of bullet heaven games, then you're not going to like this game because it's in that wheelhouse. But if you like any of the survivors games, anything in this space, ARPGs, you will have a blast with this game, in my opinion. So I recommend it easily to everyone. So that's the end of the review, and I'd love to know what you think of it. Do you think my recommendation is fair? What are your impressions of this game? Have you heard of it? Have you seen it before? Have you been playing it? Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking about Death Must Die, and I will update this accordingly as I get more play and put more videos in the description below. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this to be useful and fun. Take care.